Hello, everybody. This is Tim Spaeth, producer and host of the GameCritics.com podcast. We're on a brief hiatus this week while I spend some time with my family. We're celebrating the birth of my third child, Sam. You can actually see a picture of him right now on the Game Critics homepage if you want to check him out. I just want to take a second to thank all the listeners for the congratulatory emails. It meant quite a bit. Sam, his mom, his two sisters, they're all doing great. As for me, I'm on my third Starbucks today, and it's only 9 a.m., so that gives you an idea of how I'm doing. So no regular show this week, but we didn't want to leave you without something to listen to, so we present the very first GameCritics.com podcast bonus episode. What this is about 30 minutes of content we cut from our last regular episode, episode 14. And in that episode, we had our discussion of Heather Chaplin's GDC rant. In these deleted scenes that you're about to hear, we've got a great segment on how casual games relate to Chaplin's argument. And from there, we segged into trying to answer that classic gaming question, what is the Citizen Kane of games? Even though in episode 14 we basically refuted the legitimacy of that question, it's still a really fun conversation to have. So with that, here is Chi-Kong Liu, Mike Bracken, David Stone, and myself. We will have a real episode, number 15, in the not-too-distant future, so look forward to that. But that's it for me. The next voice you'll hear is that of David Stone. So thanks for listening, everyone, and enjoy.
If games were so macho and evil, why am I playing Gears of War 2 on insane mode with my wife for the third time? If it's really that bad, if it's really that big a guy fantasy. Now, if anybody anybody who knows,
that's because you got to keep her wife.
Right?
You got to keep her wife, man. If you have a wife who can play Gears of War co-op on hardcore,
insane. No.
See, that's a keeper. Very few of us are that lucky.
I agree. It says more about your wife than it says about Gears of War or the game industry, really.
Yeah.
No, I know that, and I readily admit I get down on my hands and knees and thank God every day what I managed to luck into. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, she still is a woman, and she still is incredibly intelligent and very assertive. But she enjoys this same level of quote-unquote depravity that, we guys tend to do. Even my mother, God bless her heart, she doesn't want to play them, and yes, she's aghast at violence, but she saw a little bit of Gears of War and thought, oh my God, I can't believe... I remember when we brought Super Mario home 25 years ago. This is what it looks like now? This is incredible.
Right. And, I don't want to get too off topic here, but to add to your point, I was twittering with someone who was also a woman who was playing One-chan Bara, and she had no problems with the sexuality. She thought it was actually kind of funny, and, she enjoyed playing dress up with the girls, so there you go, same point, Yeah.
That's because that game is just like an exploitation film in video game form, and that's the point. It's not supposed to be art or serious.
Right. It's like you said, Mike, that the lowest common denominator has its place, and I guess we're just going to disagree with Heather Chaplin as to how much it dominates the industry or doesn't dominate, or how much of it is leading the industry or not.
But to her credit, I appreciate the wake-up call that she gave to the developers to say, okay, guys, we've now been able to explore the big boom. I think the real question here is, now what?
It'll be business as usual. I don't see any way that stuff changes, because the game industry, the development industry, and the journalist industry have such a parasitic, symbiotic relationship that I can't see either of them changing, and one couldn't change without the other. So I think.
Well, then let me ask you this, Mike. Get too far off topic. Then what about the proliferation of music games now? The idea that games like Rock Band and Guitar Hero are selling as much, if not more, than these big bad explosion things. Are these male fantasies, or are these just inconvenient arguments?
That's a very good point.
Well, the point I started, I don't know, 9 or 10 minutes ago that I didn't actually get to finish was this. There is a market out there for people, and Game Critics has done this for years, but there is a market out there for all these other types of games, for journalists to be covering those games, because there is clearly a market with all the iPhones, with all the cell phone games. My BlackBerry now plays all sorts of fantastic games. Somebody needs to step up and cover these games. And that, to me, would be a fantastic counterpoint to all of the coverage which is historically focused on, as I was saying, the explosions.
But the problem with that, Tim, is that I think is called the casual industry at this point, because we don't have a better name for it.
But do the casual gamers, do they outnumber yet the hardcore gamers?
I think they rival it. If they don't outnumber it, they probably will sooner or later. And you know the real joke about all of this, with going back to her being unaware of video game history and looking at the whole nature of our medium, is with casual games, a lot of the most popular titles in that industry are the games that were hardcore 10, 15 years ago. Things like the LucasArts style point and clicks are huge. Mm-hmm. It's like they're getting this wonderful renaissance. I've been playing a ton of casual point and clicks just because it's my only way to play them now. I think she's just missing a lot when she makes her argument about the nature of our industry, because she's only looking at one. I mean, unfortunately, it's big yet it's small. It's big because it makes all the news and it makes all the money, but it's small in terms of the percentage of what's actually being produced. Grand Theft Auto, as big as it is only one game.
Yeah.
But I gotta stop you there though. But I think we agree also that she does have somewhat of a point in that, yeah, these are the more visible games, but let's go to the store shelves. There's more first person shooters out there than there are Katamaris and Civilizations or whatever you want to call the ideal game, right?
Yeah, no argument there.
On the shelf, that's true. But in terms of things that I can download to my iPhone or download to my BlackBerry or my cell phone, or the 10 jillion PopCap style games on the internet, those games may outnumber the ones that are on the shelf. And I guess the point I was trying to make, and I was making it very poorly, is that there's an opportunity for someone to step up and let people know that those games are out there, because I think a lot of people are discovering them for themselves through word of mouth. And there's an opportunity there. There's a marketing opportunity there that I hope somebody takes advantage of. And I don't really know what point I'm trying to make with that, but I think we need to wrap this discussion up.
Tim, I'm sorry, are you able to do a quick edit at this point? Because I'd like to actually do a short mini plug for a website that does cover that stuff.
Do it.
Well, Tim, I just want to tell you about a quick site on the internet that actually does cover those kinds of games. They've been around for a couple of years now. It's actually being run by a Game Critics alum, Erin Bell, who, I guess, cat's out of the bag. She's my wife, too. She runs a site called GameZebo.com. And while it is about casual games, they really are covering those iPhone portable PopCap-style games that are really starting to come to the forefront. And I think anybody who wants to just check out for more information should definitely go there. It's a great site. Not that I'm biased, but it's a great site with information. And quite frankly, it takes them very seriously. So I think you should give it a shot.
And that's ZEBO, right? Zebo. GameZebo.
Absolutely. GameZebo.com.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it is that she writes these reviews and pieces, and she's on NPR, and I think that's half of it. When you're on NPR, you're trying to intellectualize things, and a lot of the games she's trying to talk about don't really transfer to NPR very well. So I can't. It's hard to fault the medium for not transferring to the people who listen to NPR. I mean, maybe those people just aren't ever going to be gamers, so you can't fault gaming for not appealing to a demographic that it was probably never intended to appeal to in the first place.
But
See,
I
that's
disagree
fine,
in
but
that.
whose fault is that, though? That's the whole point. That's what my whole beef with this whole issue is. If this person has such a problem with the literally one or two big games that yes happen to be male power fantasies, that's the reason I've been bringing up casual games this whole darn time. Is because you know what, lady, if you really really hate it that much, there's a giant contingent of people in the world who are happy to play games that have absolutely nothing to do with the male power fantasy, and in fact, many of them could be criticized for having the pendulum swing completely the other way, with games like Nanny Mania and Diner Dash and Puppy Sims, where, you know what, that's okay, and that's what that market really craves, but she's completely ignoring that they even exist.
There you go. David, bam, that's it. I am going to pretend that I was doing an impression of you, and I will take credit for what you just said. That's a joke. Everybody, that's a joke. But that was what I was trying. That is what I was trying to say. Thank you, and I'm putting that in the show. That was fantastic.
And does that help bring the casual games part into focus?
My problem with the casual games focus is that are you going to find the Citizen Kane of gaming in casual games? And so there's sort of a still disconnect.
Hey. Absolutely yes. You're going to get Tetris.
I'm going to do a trademark Tim.
You are going to get a Tetris. You are going to get a Bejeweled. You are going to, and yes, they are puzzled, but you're going to get a game like my favorite game of the last 10 years right now, Luminous. It's the only reason my PSP ever gets turned on.
Are we still recording, by the way? We probably should record this anyway.
Yes, but... I've been recording for a while.
Good. Because you know what? That's
the problem,
these are the games
too.
that are really affecting me. I mean, yes, Gears of War 2 is fantastic, but you know what? I'm not going to play it in 5 years. But damn, I'm still going to be playing Tetris on, what is it, the 80 billionth iteration that it's coming out on? These are the games that I think are really going to be affecting us more than any other in the long term.
Mm-hmm. This whole conversation is veering towards the dreaded L word.
What's the L word?
The L word.
Ludology.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I don't want to quite go down that road, but I think the fact of the matter is she's really looking at such a small scope of the industry, and the fact of the matter is, as I said before, the casual industry is something that cannot be ignored, both by volume and, unfortunately, whether we want to like it or not, by money.
It's funny to rag on the guys at GDC of all places, which has traditionally been a place where the developers have promoted more thoughtful and smaller games. If she'd said this at E3, it might have made a little more sense to me, but, I mean, bashing the guys at GDC, it's like, Jesus, man, that's harsh.
That was kind of the point of that forum. It was called a rant,
Yeah.
So it was kind
That's
of
the same one. That's the same one where the guy bitched about the Wii being two GameCubes taped together or something the year before.
I know, but the thing is, that's got to be. I mean, that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. This one was literally walking into a room with a giant knife and cutting their collective balls off and handing it to them and say, "This is what you're making."
But Jason, not to get too far off topic, but Jason Della Rocca, the former president of IDGA, he also ripped the balls off of developers also. He basically said that like they weren't going to step up to represent gaming, so she wasn't the only one. I mean, it was clearly a rant-oriented session with a lot of people, and then Adam Sessler did his thing against Metacritic.
Yes, but also the IGDA guy ended his thing with, "Well, screw you, it's not my job anymore."
Actually, he said, "Fuck you."
Well, I know, but I don't exactly want to use that on the podcast. I'll leave it to you, our founder, to break that barrier.
It's okay. No, we broke that barrier 4 episodes ago.
I know.
Brad and I F-bomb at will.
Well, listen, I'm trying to be then let me be, oh my God, I'm the source of wholesome family values here. But no, that's essentially what he said is, "Fuck you, it's not my job anymore." And that single statement changed the entire tone. It's not like she said at the end of her thing, "Well, I've got tits, so that's just my opinion." No, nothing like that. Interesting. No, she said, "No, you guys are all infantile, juvenile boys. Grow the hell up." And I'm thinking, who the hell are you to say that to these guys? If you think you can do better, Why doesn't she go and develop that Citizen Kane game? Or give us some inkling of what to do.
Well, you don't have to go. You don't have to go there. But that's what I said. I'm not here. I'm not going to tell anyone how to live their lives. But at the same time, as critics, we shouldn't all pretend that we're going to make better games either, because that's not what we purport to do as critics either.
I'm like one of the few guys who's a game critic who has no interest at all into ever moving into development of games. That would be the worst thing that could ever happen to me.
Right. Sorry, but let's try to get back into one topic there, though. It's interesting that you would equate Tetris to Citizen Kane. Me, not so much.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Tetris is more a Mondrian or more of a, more of an abstract type deal. Not necessarily that kind of, narrative, human condition type experience. I keep saying experience because I'm running out of words. I gotta.
You see, and I would almost disagree in certain ways because of the effect that Tetris has on me when I'm playing it. The idea of a film's narrative is not, a lot of bad films tell a story. It's not a question, and can you really say that, that's sort of the beginning and the end of it. Like, an Uwe Boll film does tell a story, whether it does it bad or, good or bad. I think the fact that we universally hate Uwe Boll films is because they don't stir anything in us. And that's the one thing that games can do, because they are an active medium. And I apologize for going into the ludology slant here, but because I'm an active participant, and in a way, because Tetris is devoid of all narrative, as such, the narrative of the game is that which I put into it. And because, like Mike said, we don't want to be comparing games to film anymore, because, damn it, why should we have to? Then why can't Tetris sit atop the gaming heap as one of the finest examples of what our art form is supposed to do?
And I have to ask the question, I don't mean this sarcastically, what does Tetris stir in you emotionally?
All right, Chi, I'll give you an answer. You go ahead and set it to level 9 and start. And tell me what you're feeling while you try to move those pieces around.
You're going back to the adrenaline rush here. You're going back to the male fantasy.
It's not. But you see, it's not necessarily about adrenaline. It's about the success of the kill, meaning the success of the line. It's my ability to problem solve and multitask and manage my resources that I have within my own means to be able to accomplish what needs to be done. Because realistically, when we're playing a game, if we have to boil it down to its bare minimum, that's sort of what any game is doing, is accomplish this task. In Gears of War, it's get to the other side of the valley, or in WoW, it's raid this dungeon. But at the end of the day, we're accomplishing a task. With Tetris, we strip out all the narrative and just accomplish the task. So in the same way that with film, and Mike, feel free to shoot me down for this, with film, when what we're trying to do is indeed tell a story to a passive audience through the use of, inventive narration, great acting, gorgeous framing, gorgeous editing. If anybody knows that one very famous scene where it pulls into the cottage with that long single take, these things and the use. I studied. I minored in film studies at university, so that's why I know about Citizen Kane really well. The idea of going back and forth in time and manipulation of the story from different perspectives. Orson Welles acted differently depending on who was telling the story. This was huge. And, Rosebud is certainly a cliche nowadays. But, man, at the time, it was mind-blowing. Now the most blown mind anybody ever gets at the cinema now is, oh, my God, Bruce Willis is dead. But before it was, oh, my God, all this man wanted was this nice childhood innocence of his sled. Sorry to spoil it for you guys 60 years later. And I think that's why Citizen Kane continues to reign as one of the greatest films, if not the greatest film ever made. On top of all the symbolism of Xanadu and all the other stuff that you want to throw at it, which is quite frankly outside my purview. I think we can attach those same ideals that we aspire most games to have when not comparing it to film in Tetris.
Okay.
And a chill filled the room.
Yeah.
I'm just contemplating how I'm going to edit all this together. I'm thinking about the editing. No, go ahead.
I'd have to listen back to try to connect the dots on that one, Dave, to be honest with you.
Oh, well, basically, then here, let me summarize it in a much smaller rant, which is that if we stop comparing games to film for a second, and just look what Citizen Kane accomplished within its medium and that medium's aspirations, and also knowing full well that that medium at the time was fairly well developed. If we look at gaming, Tetris fulfills our greatest aspirations of gaming in as much as we understand them to be, given the age of the medium itself.
Right. No, you know what? As you say it that way, no, I hear what you're saying there. At the same time, the whole human condition standard is kind of like universal, across all art forms and mediums. So if you put it up by the same standard, with video games, that therein whereas how games seem to come up lacking.
Except for the fact that the one thing that games do differently than film is be an active medium. So, unlike film, we are an active participant in the art making, and in the experience that working with this art form gives us. So,
and I agree. So the potential is there, but therein lies where is the Citizen Kane of gaming? And I didn't get a chance to answer this question. Pose the question to y'all during the podcast or now. Is there a Citizen Kane of gaming? If we wanted to so anoint one,
I think there is. I think we have one, but given the nature of the medium, I think it's going to be impossible to have one.
Well, I'm just saying, just throw some stuff out there if there is any. And
I say Tetris.
Sure. Yeah.
I say Tetris. I'll hold that game up to anybody's standard any day of the week.
I would agree with Tetris. I think it's a moving target though, and Tetris's simplicity, the fact that it's not burdened by spectacular graphics, that the graphics are really irrelevant, I think lends itself to it being the Citizen Kane of gaming. 5 years ago, I would have said Half-Life 2. I wouldn't say that now, because we've had how many shooters that have excelled what Half-Life 2 did in terms of gameplay, in terms of depth, ambition, and so forth.
And the other question is, what do you mean by the Citizen Kane of gaming? I mean, that's kind of a bit nebulous. Are you saying sort of what epitomizes our art form, or
I would say what game has exhibited Citizen Kane-like sensibilities as far as what that movie did for filmmaking as an art form.
But let me ask you this.
As far as technique, as far as visuals, and again, I just don't see Tetris holding up.
But have we even defined those ideals yet? That's I think the biggest point where shoot, I'm forgetting her name now already. I've just been going off on it.
Heather Chaplin.
Sorry, thank you, Ms. Chaplin. I think that's the point she's missing when she says you can't say that because we're such a young medium, we can't hide behind that excuse. Absolutely, we can, because with film, it's very easy to make these claims as to what a film aspires to be. I don't think we've yet defined what gaming aspires to be. And that's why I think for me Tetris, until proven otherwise, works for me as an answer, because for me gaming aspires to be an experience within myself that I am an active participant in that moves me in any different way from Sunday. If I want a chance to unwind and relax, I can keep Tetris at level 0. If I want to feel suspense, I can start at level 7. And it's going to stir all those emotions and reactions from me. But that's just my definition of what I would expect a Citizen Kane of gaming to do.
Mike, you want to jump in there?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't have a Citizen Kane of gaming. I really don't. I can't think of a game that I could put on that same level. And again, I'm not even sure I should be comparing games to film at this point. But
Come on, that's okay. We're not sure this is.
We're all friends here.
There are some great games out there, but I don't know. I just don't have.
Let me
one.
ask you, being the film guy here.
Yeah.
What would you be? What qualities would need to be exhibited out of a game to be qualified, or what is it about Citizen Kane in your mind that makes it, the Citizen Kane of filmmaking that would be similar to video games?
I think it's a like perfect storm of a bunch of different elements converging at one time. I mean, you've got great acting in that film, you've got very good direction, but really what makes Citizen Kane sort of stand out is that it aspires to be something more than just entertainment. It also has something to say about the human condition and things like that of its main character. And I'm not really seeing. I haven't really seen something like that in games yet.
No, is it because you're focused on character? Is the human condition necessarily have to be an external factor that we're looking at? Can the human condition not be something that we experience in of ourselves while interacting with it?
Well, I think for some people that very well could be. I just don't know that works for me, or if it does work for me, I haven't yet played the game that makes me feel that. I like a lot of games. I like a lot of games a whole lot, but I don't have one that stands out as something, quite on that level at this point.
But just because we haven't gotten there, does that mean that we're not like when you say that, if we haven't actually achieved that we really are still quite nascent in our art form, and that we do need to continue to grow up before we can actually epitomize the ideals that you are seeking in gaming?
Oh, I totally think that.
I don't disagree with that either. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that completely invalidates Ms. Chaplin's argument that using the lack of experience of our medium as an excuse. I think that is exactly the excuse.
Yeah. No, and I said that earlier. I said that,
Yeah.
It is relative.
Then I doubly agree with you. I think you're extra right.
I think the only game that might come close but doesn't have that overall effect that you're talking about, Mike, is for me it was Metal Gear Solid: Sons of Liberty.
I knew you were going to say that. Just so
I did too.
I
knew it was
say Metal Gear.
Yeah. I was thinking that same thing.
And it's funny. I'm not even a Metal Gear fan. You know what I mean? But the reality is that was a big moment for me, as far as it did make me look at the world differently and that whole bit. So.
I think maybe my problem is I play so many Japanese RPGs which are so hideous in their narrative conventions that it's it's hard to get like any kind of depth out of them anymore, anything like that.
Yeah, and Sons of Liberty is like that for like 75% of the way. It isn't like until the final act really does it all sort of come together that way, which is the ironic part about that game.
I mean, in some ways, I'm always tempted to say Xenogears, but the second disc and the way that game wraps up is so poorly presented that it's hard to actually champion it as something. And I still don't think it's on the level of Citizen Kane. So.
Right. And I think for me, that's why I always keep going back to, and I'm sorry I'm a broken record, that's why I go back to Tetris, is because I feel for me, it eliminates a lot of those almost and not quite and how it finishes, etc. Because to me, those are film ideals. Those are ideas that something has to have a structured beginning, middle, and end. And for me, sometimes the game itself is enough of an experience that I learn something new about the way that I exist, and for me that's enough of an eye-opener.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, David, I'm not measuring it on the sort of the 3-act level either. The thing about Sons of Liberty is just the one concept that stands out that is, completely separate from the actual gameplay of itself, actually. Yeah, I would almost say completely separate from the actual gameplay. But I would also throw out two other possibilities there. One is Civilization, right, which is almost a near perfect game in of itself of what it's trying to do, and that also actually does address who we are as people and as a society and as humanity, and the whole history of who we are. So that's kind of interesting right there. But also, Tim, you wouldn't want to nominate Wing Commander?
Here's why I wouldn't, and this is why I put Tetris at the top of my list, is every attempt to improve upon Tetris
has failed.
Miserably.
And there's really no other game that I can say that about, including Wing Commander, because Wing Commander had Wing Commander 2, and then there were elements of 3 and 4 and Prophecy that improved upon the previous iterations.
Dude, it had Mark Hamill. Of course it improved.
Absolutely.
First of all, I disagree. I don't think any of the other parts were as good as part 1, but anyway.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
2, I think 2 surpasses 1 in just about every way.
Oh, no way.
I'm with Tim on this one, man. I think the scope of 2 was just so much. It just crystallized what Wing Commander really wanted to be.
From the content and from the story standpoint, but from the gameplay standpoint, I think 2 was a huge misstep for me. It's a huge misstep.
In terms of gameplay, really?
Yeah, I mean the planes were like tissue soft. I mean, like I couldn't beat that game without the invincibility on.
Oh,
that
wasn't my experience. My whole thing with 2 was the whole thing with Wing Commander is that it's the series that everyone upgrades their systems for. So I can measure all of my PC upgrades by Wing Commander releases. So for Wing Commander, I upgraded my RAM. For Wing Commander 2, I bought my first sound card. For Wing Commander 3, I bought my first CD-ROM drive, etc. I think for Wing 4, I actually bought a new computer. But the whole thing with Wing 2 was the voice. You had voices.
Yes.
You had Maniac chastising you. You had the Kilrathi, screaming at you. It was such a complete experience. It was the first time you could legitimately say, I am playing a movie. I am actually playing a movie.
The dialogue comes in the opening sequence, and there isn't any other dialogue thereafter. Except
you didn't have the speech pack, did you, Chi?
What's that?
You didn't have the speech pack, did you?
I think I did, but even then, I mean, come on. I mean, what did you got like voices in the thing in the cockpit? I don't know. That doesn't count for me.
But you see, that's the big point here is that, if that's what defines our medium is that technological advance as opposed to anything. Sorry, Tim. I feel like I'm sort of stealing your point, but I think that's where you were going, right?
Yeah. No, totally. That's exactly where I was going. And the other thing I'll say about Wing Commander 2 is that is the origin of my Colonel T nickname.
I knew it was something related to Wing Commander. I didn't know exactly what it was.
And I'll tell you what happened was at the beginning of Wing Commander, you get to set up your call sign, and I typed T and accidentally pressed Enter. So the entire game I was referred to as Colonel T by accident, and I never went back and changed it. And so that's where Colonel T came from.
And you see, Tim, I always used to think that Colonel T, I know you now, so I can definitely say this. Your avatar on GameCritics.com looked like a toilet seat, so yes. I thought it actually stood for Colonel Toilet. I'm so sorry.
No, that's I've heard that before.
I think I've elevated our podcast to a new low.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, to go back on topic for a second, anyway.
Please, thank you.
Tim, actually, you made a very convincing argument. First of all, not only for Wing Commander 2, but also for Tetris being a Citizen Kane type thing. I mean, I think you're right to go. I think, and I'll tell you why. It's a little not to discredit David, but it's more convincing to just step away from the whole emotional argument and just say, yeah, it has not been surpassed, and I cannot disagree with that, at all. It has not been surpassed. So, yeah, bravo, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. No, seriously, actually, there was no sarcasm. Thank you so much for being in my corner. It's hard to argue with our founder and with one of the smartest film geeks out there.
It's also unquestionable that we all view what the Citizen Kane of gaming is differently, so that's the other interesting part of it, which is almost like the whole art debate as well, but
Which goes back, I think, to her point, which is that for anyone to paint our industry with such broad brushstrokes, I think is just such a pointless endeavor, because you know what? It's not going to help anything. And in a worst case scenario, it offends, and it's completely misguided, and quite frankly, completely ignorant.
Has she responded to anything that's come in the aftermath of it? I haven't seen anything from her since that came out. But
I think she's in a cave right now, afraid of us.
I was expecting an "I quit" thing coming from her next after that. Take this job and shove it.
Well, I wondered if she was going to come out and say some of it was over the top for effect, or maybe I didn't think this through or something. I don't know. I stand by this and fuck all of you, or
If she was smart, and I bet she is, she won't say a thing.
Yeah. Here's what we ought to do. We ought to get her on the show, and then on the same show for Mike, we'll get Lee Alexander, and we'll do like a ladies of game journalism show.
Yeah.
And
she can tell me what club she went to last night and how she got drunk and got the band to play for her. Jesus Christ.
I'm surprised you haven't mentioned how she whines about the baby.
That was kind of, dude, I don't know what Twitter is, okay, but I don't think it's my own fucking personal chat room,
I know, I heard somebody call it water the other day, and I think it sums it up almost more eloquently.
Yeah.
And that is all, folks. If you made it to the end, your prize is homework. We want to know what game you think qualifies as the Citizen Kane of games and why. As you just heard, we expect each of you will assign wildly different criteria to your selections. Or if you reject the question entirely, we want to know that too. You can post your suggestions to the comments section for the show on the Game Critics website, or Twitter your answer. Yes, Twitter. Our Twitter account is Game Critics, one word, no punctuation, and we'll discuss the best responses on our next show. That show will be episode 15, which we'll be recording very soon. My thanks again to Chi, Mike, and David, and my thanks to you for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.